All right, in the penultimate episode, we get a little more of a history lesson, of course, with the partition that split up India and its northern territory became Pakistan. And it lived happily ever after. No. It was a big mess. And, there's seething rage ever since in a lot of corners. But this is the backdrop, and it was always alluded to throughout the series concerning Kamala's great-grandmother, whom we now know was, actually an alien, if you will, from another dimension, a clandestine, or they're mistaken for a jinn, or they're saying this is what the jinn are. I don't know. But anyway, and it was always alluded to that this had something to do with Kamala's grandmother, who was a little girl at the time that this happened. And it was pretty obvious. And either it was her grandmother did something with the bangle, which she does, or now that at the end of last episode where Kamala literally is transported back in time in the midst of the trains with all the Muslims having to leave India for Pakistan and all that sort of thing going on, and it's all a big chaotic mess. You realize pretty much you know how it turns out. It was Kamala who did this little wonder, and it's actually quite simple. And some of it stretches a bit credibility that no one would not, a few people notice the glowing lights, but not all. Of course, they're concerned with other matters at the time, but anyway. So basically, the bulk of the show is to flesh out the story of Kamala's grandmother, how she met her grandfather, and his position and where he was, and then they fall in love. It jumps a little ahead. She's having his child, or she's had his child rather, and so they got together, they got married, and all this stuff, and everything's fine. Well, not everything's fine. They're having to leave, and all this stuff. But she has her own reasons for needing to leave because she's broken away from the other clandestines, and so ultimately, what's Cameron's mother? Is it Najama? I think. Or something like that, kills Aisha, because she feels like she betrayed her and the group and everything. But Aisha knows what the ultimately will happen, but she's found love and a family and everything. Of course, so will Najama do later on with her son, Cameron. But it looks like she waited a lot longer for this to happen. Of course, then again, I guess we don't really know how old Cameron is, if he's got the clandestine blood in him. But then again, Kamala's grandmother, Sana, she's aging normally. So, whatever. But, so you get, it's all very well shot, too. It's pretty good. And you get the whole story about that. And it ultimately, surprise, surprise, Kamala shows up. The first half is really the story of Aisha and her love story, and then the betrayal and her death. But before she dies, Kamala shows up. So it was Kamala who has to save her grandmother as she gets lost in the crowd, and so she does. So it's actually the saving of her it's rather simple. But it would have been really horrific if your child gets lost in a crowd and you never see her again and all that. But she reunites with her father, and he never sees Kamala, and they get on the train, and the rest is history. And then Kamala falls back into the present. So it's not entirely certain, but it has something to do with Aisha. She had to have been, there's something else about her that she connected with the bangle, whereas the others appeared to not be able to. I'm not entirely certain. And yet, Najama does something at the end here where she transfers, I guess, her powers to Cameron. So now he's powered, but he's exhibiting powers at the end that are far more than what she did. So I'm not entirely certain why she didn't utilize, when the rest of it, she and the rest of them were using, like they were just doing martial arts and stuff like that. And it's like, you got powers, use the damn powers, But maybe it was in the when she encountered the veil they referred to. So it's this doorway that transported Kamala to the past, but it's still open when she comes back, and they're thinking, oh, it's the doorway home, but they get in its presence and it kills them. So if they don't close it, then it'll open up and both worlds would probably cease to exist. It wouldn't work or whatever. So the Jamba decides to sacrifice herself in closing it, but then she passes on this power to her son, who has now moved in with Bruno. But then I guess a damage control drone attacks them, and that's when Cameron's powers manifest, and so they're like, what the hell? And so there they are. So in the end, yes, I guess damage control has to be the big bad. There might be some problems there. Gee, I wonder what that's about. But other than that, it's the episode's fine. Again, all these episodes have been fine. But this is there's only one more, and considering what you had and what the episode time you had available, probably should have tightened this up a lot more. It's it would be unfortunate because there's a lot of scenery and story and whatnot, but you just didn't have the room for it. And really, for the purposes of her becoming Miss Marvel, I would have. You need at least 3 more episodes, I think, to round this out. With only 6, you just didn't have the time to devote to her whole family history, and they all get their own story and stuff. This is not enough time there. So now it's like the final episode, and I don't know. I guess is this just where she suits up at the end? That's pretty lackluster. So it's really late to have her come full force. That being said, that she just jumps into it. She didn't. She had to learn and all this stuff, and it's clumsy and whatnot. So there's good and bad in it. I think they should have had more episodes for it. But knowing that you didn't, there's certain things you just couldn't do because the time is now hurting the show. Because it's just going to, and that's it. Maybe we'll get another one. Will you? I don't know. I mean, she's going to be in the Marvels movie, so maybe they'll have an offshoot of that. But I think that's probably a big problem for it overall. But beyond that, yeah, it's a fine episode, but you're kind of stuck with what you got there. So anyway, there we go. Time and again for Ms. Marvel.